Hey everyone, and welcome to the next lesson in this series on AWS fundamentals. So today I'm going to be teaching you as to how you can go ahead and SSH into your EC2 instance. So in other words, you'll be able to remotely connect to your EC2 instance via SSH on port 22. Now before we do that, we need to install a client to perform this remote connection, and that client will be PuTTY. Okay, so PuTTY is basically a client that we can use for this purpose, and it is for Windows-based operating systems. So head over to Google and just type in download PuTTY, and you want to go ahead and click on this link here. Okay, then you want to go ahead and say download PuTTY. Now, don't worry if you're struggling to get to this page. I will be sure to include this link in the description below, so don't worry about that. Now you would need to go ahead and download the MSI installer. So for me, it's going to be 64-bit x86. So you can go ahead and just click on this here. Okay, so there it is. Just wait for it to download, and then we'll open it up and start the installation process. So this should be relatively quick. So let's just wait for it to download, and then we'll move on ahead. So there we are, it's downloaded. Let's open this up. Okay, prepare the install, so it's very quick, so you can just say next. Next is fine, and go ahead and install PuTTY. Okay, so you'll see your screen will dim, so make sure you press yes here on the allow this app to make changes to our device, so say yes. And then go ahead and install PuTTY. You can choose if you want to view the README file, I don't, so just say finish when it's been installed on your computer. There we go. So that was the installation and setup of PuTTY. Okay, so let's go back to AWS, and the next thing that we need to do is we need to go ahead and create an EC2 instance. Right, so let's go to EC2, and we want to just go ahead and create an EC2 instance. So let's close this here, and we can go to instances. And we want to go here in the top right to say launch instances. And then we can just set up quickly a EC2 instance, or what we can call it or refer to it as is a virtual server. So here I'm going to say my server. Okay, just set the defaults here. So the Amazon and Linux base OS. Okay, make sure you're on free tier eligible. The architecture 64-bit x86. Instance type, make sure you leave it on the T2 micro instance type with 1 vCPU and 1 gig in memory. So under key pair here, what you can do if you don't already have a key pair, you can go ahead and create a new key pair. So give it a name, make sure that you set it to .ppk here and create the key pair. So just name your key pair, so KP. Set the key pair type to RSA, so this will ensure that it's encrypted, private, and public. And then make sure you use a .ppk because we're going to be using PuTTY. Okay, then make sure to create your key pair. Now for me, I already have a key pair, so I'm going to select it. So mine is called my KP. Okay, and then everything else here we can leave as default. Okay, so I have a security group. If you don't have a security group, make sure that you go ahead and say allow HTTP traffic from the internet. So ensure that you do this. Okay, so if you have a security group, go to select existing security group, and I'm going to choose one here, which is Launch Wizard 1. So this is the one that I've been using in this series. So if you want continuity, you can follow on the previous videos from before, if you want a little bit of an idea as to what I'm doing here. Okay, so we can leave everything as default. We can go now to advanced details. And we can actually set our user data. Now, I'm not going to set the user data here because the focus is not on actually seeing our virtual server by connecting to it. I'm just going to really teach you today how to SSH into it. So you're more than welcome to enter user data, which I included in my previous videos. But we don't need to set that. That's not necessary for now. Okay, so let's look at our summary. So we have our AMI for our software image, our virtual server type, and our firewall all set. Now let's go ahead and launch our instance. Okay, so let's launch it. Perfect, it's all set to go. Okay, refresh. Okay, so it is pending. Okay, this is going to take a bit of time. So what we can do is in the meantime, we can actually go and configure PuTTY and get that organized and all set. But I think what's a good idea to make sure we don't get ahead of ourselves is it's better to just wait until our instance is running and available, and that this instance has passed the status check and is 2 out of 2. So this can take maybe 5 minutes or so, 5 to 10 minutes. So it's best to wait before we carry on with the process, because we don't want to have any errors or issues in the way, even though we can move on. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pause the video until the status check has passed. So it will be 2 status checks that will show 2 out of 2. So let's just wait for that, and then I'll resume the video. All right. So we're all back, and we can now see that our instance state is running and that we passed both of the status checks here. So if you don't see this, just go ahead and refresh here just in case, and just double check that the instance state is running and the status checks have been passed. Okay, great. So let's just click on the checkbox here, and just bear in mind our public IPv4 address. So it will be different for you as it is different for me. Okay, so just bear that in mind here. All right, so what we want to do is we actually want to SSH into this EC2 instance. Now, bear something in mind. So go to security here, the security tab. And what you want to do is scroll down, okay, until you see the inbound rules here. So this isn't very clear. So we can actually open security groups here in a new tab. Mine's called Launch Wizard 1. So let's open that up. And here under inbound rules, we can see we have 2 rules. The first one is, of course, setting our HTTP endpoint. So we will be able to connect to this EC2 instance, as we know, by going to our a new tab here and just inserting this public IPv4 address, and we will be able to access this EC2 instance. Okay, but that is this first part. Now, the second part, which we're going to learn now, is how to SSH into this EC2 instance. And we can do that via port 22, okay, and this can be from anywhere. Okay, and that's what we're going to learn now, how to actually SSH into our EC2 instance. Okay, so let's get started. So first thing we want to do is just open PuTTY. So we can just search for it. So I have it here, PuTTY. So just give that a click and you'll see this. Okay, so make sure you have your key pair, which you should have downloaded or created it earlier on. And this is mine here called MyKP. Okay, so this you should have done when you set up your EC2 instance. And remember when I said create new key pair, you can create a new key pair and just make sure you download it. Okay, perfect. So I'm just going to delete my old setting here. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to insert our host name or IPv4 address. So let's look here. So our IPv4 address, let's zoom out here. Okay, we can see here is, in my case, 18.117.122.53. So copy your public IPv4 address that is bound to your EC2 instance. So I'm going to copy it here and paste it. Okay, and it is automatically going to be set to port 22, and this is exactly what we want to do. We want to SSH into our EC2 instance, as I showed you here. We have an inbound rule that allows us to do this action, so make sure that you have this SSH rule in place. Okay. Next thing that we want to do is we want to save this session. So we can go to Save Sessions, and I'm going to say here my EC2 instance. Okay, so I'm going to create a save session here, and you want to go ahead and save that session. Perfect. Great. Now, what we want to do next is we want to go to SSH. So you can click on the plus here next to SSH, and then you want to click on auth. So just click on auth, not the plus, just auth. And here we need to browse for a private key file for authentication. And we have that just here because we created this key pair here from our EC2 setup. So we can say browse, and we can just choose our key pair. So mine's on the desktop, open it, and there we go. Now we want to go back to our session. So make sure that path is set. Go to the session. Okay, make sure you click on your EC2 instance save session. Make sure you save it now. So make sure you click on it here and save it. Perfect. Now what we can do next is we can actually set this up. Right, so make sure you've clicked on your session here, and you can go ahead and just say open. Okay, so you can say open, And you should see this. Now you may see another message for the first time, and all you want to say on that message, okay, is allow. So you'll see a message here early on, which is possible. So just say allow, and then you'll be prompted with this. So we now want to log in and connect to our EC2 instance. Now to do that, you would just say EC2 dash user, and then you'll press enter. Now, unfortunately, I cannot show you anything from here, okay, because it will reveal some sensitive information on my part, so I apologize for that. But for you, it will work perfectly fine. So just say EC2-user and press enter, and then you'll see that you're connected to your EC2 instance, and you can already see here that the process is looking great. So that's it on how to SSH into an EC2 instance. So all you need to do is go ahead now and say EC2-user and press enter, and then you'll see that you're connected remotely to your EC2 instance, okay, which is here, okay, and you're connecting to it via SSH under port 22. So bear that in mind. Okay, so that's it. Remember to press enter after you type in this command here, and then you'll see you're connected successfully. All right, so that's it. Thank you guys.